You know, a team that's, I think the NBA has always been better when the Knicks are relevant. In between Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Cat, Josh Hart, OG, it's a really good basketball team. But they do not match up with the Celtics. And this is where you're really good. I mean, I've watched them play the Celtics twice, and that shit's not competitive. Like it does not work. Now, it's almost like the Celtics have circumvented the NBA CBA. The NBA CBA, they don't want you to have like five really good players. And it's almost like the Celtics figured out a way to be the last team that can have a roster that you're not supposed to have anymore, where Derek White's your fifth
And now
best
they're trying to
guy
sell the
some
team
nights.
so someone else has to pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like they're almost circumventing the new CBA. Like this is not really fair. And you can tell. So I think New York's a really good basketball team. And I think I trust them in the playoffs. I think they're smart. I think they've got, it's well chronicled. They're kind of got a Villanova feel. They play hard. They're smart. I think they're one of those teams that'll be a better playoff team than a regular season team. And they're a good regular season team. There are teams like Houston, I think, are a better regular season team than a playoff team. The Knicks are going to be fine. But I watched them now twice play Boston. And I want you to break it down because they don't match up. And this is a good team. Let's just be honest about this. They got 5 to 6 guys in that rotation. The Knicks can match up with almost every team in the league. Why is Boston? And you can tell Boston, like when they played this past week, that's a national TV game. They're like, okay, all right, guys. I mean, that thing was, I mean, 4 minutes in, you're like, yeah, Boston came to play. Boston's not effing around. Why doesn't New York? Because I think New York has enough different players and they play hard enough and they're really smart and they're well coached. They kind of match up with everybody. They do not match up with Boston. Like, what is it?
So there are two kind of prevailing theories in NBA offense right now, which is like matchup hunting versus like running motion. And the motion is like what you see with the Warriors. There's tons of screens. Guys are running in circles all over the floor. Boston's like, where's your weakest defender? Let's get him up here and let's play some basketball. And like, that's literally all they do. And when I watched that game, the way they surgically attacked Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns every single time down the floor, they'd get them both in. They'd bring the ball up the floor. They'd have Jalen Brunson's man come screen for Tatum. Okay, now Jalen Brunson's on Tatum. Okay, now we're going to get Cat into the action. So now it's like Tatum and one of his teammates attacking Cat and Brunson in the same action. And there's just nothing they can do about it. The Knicks are really, really good. They can score whenever they want. They get out and transition like crazy. They've got all of these good players that are super bought into their roles.
They're
to
watch.
Super
fun
to watch. And they have beat the shit out of some good teams this year. But every time I've watched them against Boston, it's the exact same issue. We are going to get Karl Anthony Towns in space and make him guard and just get right past him and then spray out and get great shots and beat you. It's actually kind of funny, Colin, because you can tell that they really want to beat the Knicks because the Celtics have played some pretty bad basketball in the middle of the season where they're not deliberate and where they do take bad shots and they settle and they don't do the things they need to do. They see the Knicks and they like snap back to the playoffs last year and they just get surgical in the way that they pick on those guys. But it really just comes down to they go at New York's worst defenders every single time and then they play driving kick out of it to get great shots. And that really is the issue. And then Jalen Brunson, he just has this wall of athletic, bigger defender every single possession as it goes down to the other end. It's like, here's Jaylen Brown, here's Drew Holiday, here's Derek White. It's such a difficult job for him to consistently break down that Boston defense because they just have so many different defenders they can put on him.
Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are. All the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Slams, dishing the ball, cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players, prop bets you can make on DraftKings. It's fun. The home of NBA player props. If you're ready to place your first bet, make it really simple. Pick how many points your favorite player is going to score. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook. They have an app. Download it. Make your pick. If you're a first-timer, here's something special. New DraftKings customers, all you have to do is bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. So take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download their app. Takes 90 seconds. Use the code Colin, COLIN, to get 150 bones in bonus bets. Betting just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. Yeah, it's interesting to say that because I really like the dexterity of the Knicks. I think they're a matchup problem. Karl Anthony Towns is offensively gifted. He's shooting threes like right now, like the best he's ever. I mean, he's really shooting the ball well. He's quirky. I've seen him play live 4 times, and there'll be halves. You're like, is he a top 10 player in the league? Like he can destroy people. He can embarrass people. And then in the second half, you'll be like,
Where to go?
did he take a sleep aid? Did he have a Theraflu at half? Like what happened? But it is interesting you break it. And I'm so glad for our audience listening, Jayson is so good at this. And that's why I just foisted it up to him. Is when I've watched them play twice the Celtics, and shit is not competitive. They just do not match up at all. And I don't know. I think the NBA is a funny league where the NFL is sort of separated from everybody. For a lot of reasons, our society is so distracted now. The TikToks, the platforms, the iPhone. So regular season games, when you play like hockey or baseball, it's really hard, NBA. It's really hard college basketball to get ratings Monday through Friday. So college football, UFC, the NBA, the World Cup, they have big advantages. They feel like events. We're more of an event. Netflix has figured this out. We're more of an event culture now than a Monday through Friday, right? And we're just more distracted. But I will say this about the NBA, and I think they may not have their best players in the best markets, but Luka going to LA, Jimmy Butler to San Francisco, the Knicks are fun to watch, so is Boston. I think it's bigger than people think. De'Aaron Fox to Wemby. Baseball had a massive resurgence last year, and let's not try to overthink this. It's because Bryce Harper's in Philly, Aaron Judge is in New York, the Dodgers are an all-star team. The Mets are really good. Like all the really good players are almost all in the right markets. I thought it was not just a good week for the NBA. They repositioned their players. Wemby is the next superstar. Oh, De'Aaron Fox goes to him. Luka to LA. Like the Knicks are really fun to watch. Boston's outstanding. And by the way, it's okay to have an OKC. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like I don't know. And it's easy to beat the NBA up. And baseball is an agent-run sport. Basketball is a player-run sport. NFL is sort of an executive-run sport, which is the life that most of us can relate to and live in. I thought it was a substantial, like honestly, if you're Adam Silver and you could have pulled levers, you would have wanted Butler with Steph. You would have wanted Wemby to get a 25-point guy. From your perspective, you watch the NBA regardless. I thought it was the best 10 to 14-day period the NBA has had in 5 years. Seriously.
Oh, 100% agree. I found this to be so fascinating, Colin, because, first of all, I'm a diehard basketball fan. And so when I hear people talk about the NBA in a negative light, I'm like, I get defensive. I'm like, no, we're good. Just please watch. It's going to be interesting. I promise. And it's like when everyone was talking about all this stuff early in the season, there were all these different prevailing opinions. And that, for the record, is what made it interesting is no one knows. No one knew why the ratings were down. And I was kind of keyed in on the concept of urgency. I kept thinking, like, what was the difference between like 1998 when Michael Jordan was playing in right now? And the difference is there's just thousands of more options, both on your TV and on your smartphone. It is a much more competitive space. Right. And I still think that is the primary barrier between the NBA and like getting real consistently great ratings. That said, like, what really dawned on me in the last week as NBA interest skyrocketed, and even though the NFL is going to be just fine, there was a little bit of a stagnant kind of stretch there in the last couple of weeks where it's like, here are the Chiefs again, here are the Eagles again. It's kind of the same storylines. Okay, yeah, Taylor Swift, but we talked about all that last year. It was like kind of a little bit stagnant. And what dawned on me, Colin, is I think the NBA screwed the pooch a little bit with this latest CBA by restricting player movement so much. It was a problem where it became the only thing the NBA was, where all we talked about was players moving, and you don't want to go that far. But the truth of the matter is a good amount of the intrigue in the NBA comes down to player movement, and it's been like that my whole life. It keeps things fresh, and I told Adam Silver this when he joined me. I said, Adam, you guys are too worried about this. I find the Warriors boring when Steph's off the floor. I'm now going to watch them play. I already have watched them play.
player movements front. The NFL figured this out. They moved their free agency period. They're like, people like this stuff. It's fantasy football. I think, listen, the NBA has always been a little concerned with tanking, but I do think sometimes the NBA worries about problems that are just natural and authentic and organic, and it's okay. Like, people like they like trades. Take out LeBron. The truth is, even KD's player movement outside of the Warriors, it hasn't made the league unfair. One of his moves was great. The last two haven't done anything.
Yeah, they almost always don't pan out. Actually, it's kind of hilarious. It's like, who's going to be the next person to put all their chips in the basket and have some sort of issue? But like, yeah, that's kind of the way that I look at it. And I think part of it is they listen too much to certain owners. And you almost need to get those guys together and be like, look, I get it. Like, when this happens and you lose your star, it can be a problem. But the flip side of it is like, we're all going to make a lot more money if there's intrigue surrounding the league. In an absence of urgency, we can make up for it with intrigue. And again, you don't want to go too far. You don't want to get it to where it becomes a soap opera. But I thought like, Colin, it was like everyone was so just like whatever about the NBA all season until the Luka trade went down. And then it's just, and it was almost like it kind of like broke the ice in a way to where everyone was like, you know what, let's shake things up too. Next thing you know, you have 6 stars changing teams. You have all these new cores that you're looking at. It just shook things up in the right way to reinvigorate interest. And so from that standpoint, like, I do wonder if the NBA needs to take a look at a little bit more balance between, like, you need to find a way to incentivize players staying with teams, but at the same time, make it possible for them to be moved. Because right now it's too difficult to move them because of the apron rules.
That's right.
And all these different things. And so like there, Colin, more players would have moved if it wasn't for the current CBA structure. Like, when you have to match salaries, but you can't take in additional money, and now everyone needs a third team to eat up salary just to facilitate a deal. Like, it made it difficult, and like everyone did it anyway. But like, the point is I think the NBA kind of over-indexed on stability, and now all of a sudden when you have stability without urgency, it just becomes boring.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's funny about professional sports is people talk about parity, but TV networks pay about 35% for all these leagues or more. They don't want parity. Fox doesn't give a rip if they have to televise the Eagles every week and never the Panthers. Like, they don't care. It's like, the reality is the NBA partners at Amazon, NBA, ESPN, Amazon, and NBC, if 8 to 10 teams are fun to watch, then those are the teams you televise. Like Fox, we're going to televise the Padres, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, maybe the Braves because they're so big in the South. And that's about 65 to 75% of the games you televise. We're not beholden to televising the Mariners. You know, it doesn't matter. And the NBA is not, you know, ESPN doesn't have to televise Sacramento. So I agree with you is that people like deals. I think what's happened in our society is that as we're more distracted, it takes more to grab our attention. But basketball at its core, is a fun watch. It has many things that are really good. It's driven by stars. It's got egos. It's got rivalries. It's got a hierarchy. It's cool. You see celebrities at games. There's a lot of things that, baseball had a very good season, but baseball is long. The pacing is slow. Celebrities don't go to games. The season is twice the NBA. There's a lot of things with baseball that in the current sort of societal structure and how we're built now don't work. That's why speeding the game up was so important. Basketball's always had certain things. Young people like it. It's the culture. Their shoes. It's star-driven. So the key is, can you get the stars moving around a little bit? Can you hopefully get them in your Bostons and your LAs and your Chicagos and your New Yorks and Phillies? Yeah, markets kind of matter. But it reminded me, Jason, years ago when before Obama became the presidential candidate, the Democratic Party was just sort of lost. And then all of a sudden, a year later, after Barack Obama becomes president, you're like, wow, that party is strong. They are dominant. That is the smart party. It is amazing when Conor McGregor, as UFC is growing and growing, and Conor McGregor is this crazy talent. It's like, it just took UFC to a oh, you've got to watch. Saturday night, Conor McGregor is fighting. John Jones is fighting. The truth is, the Lakers are good. The Celtics are good. The Knicks are good. Jason, the league's good. I mean, seriously, San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Boston. Yep, league's going to be just fine.
You got to think about the casual fan. Like when I think about like the nut jobs like me that are going to watch the season no matter what, we're not the people that you're trying to impress. And that really is the bottom line there. There has to be some intrigue. The NFL does it with urgency, and it's just so easy for anyone to watch the game and realize one team's trying to move this way and the other team's trying to move this way. It's basically like 11 on 11 tug of war if you really look at it. Basketball, it needed this. And like I can't even, Colin, Rob Pelinka, after trading for Luka Doncic, got through the deadline without a center and put all of his eggs in the basket of Mark Williams, who's played like a third of the basketball games that he could have played in since he came into the league. Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss, had this not gone down, the Lakers probably would have spiraled for another decade. It's hard for me to even quantify how much of a solid Nico Harrison and the Mavs did here for not just the Lakers, but for the entire NBA, because they set the Lakers up for the next decade when they probably would have spiraled from here. It really is a remarkable turn of events.